World of Warcraft began in 2004 and changed the MMORPG genre forever, as millions of players forged their own destiny and set off on a grand adventure that would change their lives. From the Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor to the alien Outland, the icy plains of Northrend, and beyond. A lot of players have fallen out of love with World of Warcraft, and that could be for a host of reasons. Whether it is due to poor storytelling, the game becoming too linear, too optimized, bloated, or too easy. Some players believe that there's just no fun to be had anymore, or that the sense of adventure and wonder that captivated players for so long just doesn't exist anymore. We've gone from being these brand new adventurers to achieving titles such as the High Lord, Azeroth's Champion, Moorwalker, and so on. From recent videos I've put out, players seem very much against the idea of this main character syndrome that now exists in World of Warcraft, and just want to go back to the good old days. I want to ask you a question though. What has changed more? The game? Or you? There may be many of you watching who started World of Warcraft on release like me. I would have been about 13 or 14 years old, and of course, I was hooked. I was immersed in this incredible world, and it was all I thought about, morning, noon and night. I just wanted to explore and live in this game. I could lament these days gone by, but I want to get right to the point on why players look back on WoW so fondly, but also why they struggle with it in recent times, and you can apply this to classic and retail. You'll likely hear people say that World of Warcraft was better in the old days, and it's an opinion I think many would agree with. It's important to cast our minds back to World of Warcraft on its release. The belief is, back in the day, MMOs were more enjoyable than they are now. They were more fun, they were more social, they were made with love, and they were authentic. It's a very popular opinion. There's something amusing yet bizarre that older gamers would chastise a newer audience for enjoying modern WoW, for instance, because it's simply not possible to be on the levels of the good old stuff. A lot of people will argue that World of Warcraft is too easy and has been dumbed down. Players say World of Warcraft has lost its way and is nothing like it used to be. The talent changes, the pruning, the lack of class identity, Mythic Plus, Mythic Raiding, GDKPs, flying mounts, you name it. Everybody watching this video will have qualms with the game and feel something has damaged the game irreparably for them. However, I don't believe any of these changes have anything to do with why you stopped having as much fun with World of Warcraft. Remember the question I asked you, what has changed more, the game or you? There are two factors I believe in why you aren't having as much fun anymore, and the first one is lifestyle. Think about how much your life has changed. You might already be thinking I'm wrong, but I implore you to stay until the end of this video all the same, and if you still disagree with me, please leave a comment about your thoughts and feelings. As always, the goals of these videos are for discussion, entertainment and opinion, and I think it's important to discuss these topics in an objective and civilized manner. How many of you remember the good old days? The thrill or the rush of finishing high school, rushing home, you throw your bag on the floor, you grab your favourite snack, you boot your PC up, you log into the game, and just sit down with your guildmates and your friends from school. Maybe you were planning a big Stratholme run or Blackrock Depths earlier in the day, and now it was time for that adventure to begin. Or how about those late nights gaming, when you stayed up raiding long after you should have been asleep, trying to make as less noise as possible so you didn't wake your parents up. Maybe you had a really crappy week at work, but then it's Friday night and you're about to raid with some of your work buddies and have a few beers. It's an overdose of nostalgia just thinking about it, and I have shared these exact same feelings. And this is important to the lifestyle side of things. World of Warcraft is undoubtedly great, and it's a huge part of mine and I'm sure your life, but it wasn't the game alone that made you look back on these times so fondly. It's a combination of your lifestyle. There are factors that need to be taken into account. Your age, you were younger, and you had a lot more free time and could easily put in 10 to 12 hours a day. You likely had a bigger friendship circle with friends from school. Maybe you didn't have bills to pay. Maybe you didn't have children. You had less responsibilities and a lot more time. The game was all about connections, and that is essentially what defined your experience. The game was tailor-made for your lifestyle. The game needed your time and dedication, which was okay because you had the hours to spare. The game required teamwork, which was fine because you probably had friends from school to play with. As you get older, you have more responsibilities. You start to work full-time and potentially long hours, in turn making your free time shorter. Maybe you start a family. Friendship groups have a tendency to drift apart, and real life finally becomes more important than the MMO. And this is where the aforementioned teamwork, dedication, and free time takes a back seat, as you can't quite measure up to the demands of the MMO genre anymore. The most common complaint is that World of Warcraft doesn't respect your time anymore, and whilst that may have been true in the recent past, we also don't have as much time as we used to. Classic World of Warcraft may potentially blind this approach, because it's filled with all the experiences I've talked about. If you spent your teens playing World of Warcraft, then playing Classic is going to fuel that nostalgia. You'll have memories of friendship, your first raid kill, seeing Ragnaros for the first time, just remembering the world back then, staying up late at night. This enhances Classic WoW because of how strong nostalgia is. The game wasn't the most important part of the experience, it was about how the game existed at the same time your life could meet the commitments. This brings me on to the second factor that I believe why players aren't having as much fun anymore, and that is mindset. Why is World of Warcraft fun? Fun is obviously subjective. How do you have fun in World of Warcraft? Is it the progression? Is it pet battles? Is it farming Raider IO score? Is it pumping the big numbers? What is fun to you? Fun could be something as simple as exploring somewhere new for the first time, engaging in open world PvP, or maybe even fishing. It can be whatever you want it to be. There is no right or wrong answer here. These days, most people care and prioritise Mythic Plus rating, item level, DPS, new content, and the meta. But that doesn't mean the other stuff or the things that you love don't exist anymore. World of Warcraft players have conformed to this behaviour of wanting to be the best, and that exists in both Classic and Retail. And it's absolutely fine to have this thought process and desire to be the best, but it shouldn't blind players to think that World of Warcraft has lost its magic. Blizzard have instilled a gotta go fast philosophy, and it's simply how some people choose to play the game now. But it's important to remember that this isn't mandatory. It's often discussed how people want Mythic raiding to be abolished because of all the stress that comes with it, from raid compositions to the time required to the admin. And we could go back to lifestyle with this. Would you have been a Mythic raider if you were playing in high school? I would wager you probably would. The community has cultivated a desire to be the best and play the best race, class, spec, and everything else that comes with it, and that's something that Blizzard have endorsed, and as mentioned, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's perfectly natural for people to want to acquire the best gear and be the strongest they can be, but you are in control of this and your goals. If you have a desire to be the best, then time, commitment, and dedication will be required of you. And you have to ask yourself, is the juice worth the squeeze? The game will feel like a second job for as long as you keep making it feel that way. I'm personally of the belief that hyper-competitiveness is making WoW worse. The game is being taken far too seriously, and I think it's extremely damaging to the preservation of the game. And that is something that falls on both Blizzard and the community. It's become clear to Blizzard that basing Mythic Plus around a timer is just not good gameplay design, and this whole idea of just rushing and consuming the content as quickly as possible just feels like a real shame. But again, I must stress, this is mindset. It's just sadly become the norm. I would never tell anybody to play the game a certain way, but it feels that the game has become so optimised to the point that Blizzard have now optimised the fun out of it for a lot of players. The game isn't fun for a lot of players now because we're older, wiser, and know more about the game. The collective meta-knowledge of the game has reached its conclusion as soon as the patch drops. You can learn everything you need to know within a few clicks, and that sense of discovery is withered for a lot of players, and the main focus has become the archetypal gameplay most RPGs are, and that is character growth. A lot of this is why I didn't play TBC Classic. TBC is one of my favourite expansions in World of Warcraft. My memories of TBC are so incredibly pure that if I went back to it now, yes, I would get warm fuzzy feelings of nostalgia and days gone by, but I would also be a lot more cynical and critical of my experiences, and I would poke holes in TBC because of my mindset with the modern game. And that is a problem with me, and by me, I potentially mean you too if this is how you process the game. There is a lot more research on World of Warcraft now than there was back in the day, and people are constantly obsessing over the meta, buffs, nerfs, patches and so on. You won't ever have the same experience for a myriad of reasons. You're older, your goals have changed, you're more educated in the game now. You've seen all of this stuff before. The zones, the dungeons, the raids. It's not that World of Warcraft isn't full of adventure or magic anymore, but you're simply unmoved by it now, and this is not the fault of the game. The reason you don't take the world in like you used to is because you're now looking at the game through a different lens. Your perception of the game is deteriorated due to repetition. Players don't want to run a dungeon now because they want to explore it and feel like they're going on an adventure. They want to run it because of the loot drops they're going to potentially receive. The ethos and philosophy of most players now is, I just want to get this done, the faster the better, and then I can move on to the next thing. Most players are chasing battle pass or seasonal trends, and this dilutes an essence of the game in ways to attempt to monetize it further. You can still have fun and explore the dungeons the way you used to, but your focus has now shifted. Expectations are different, and most content is a means to an end now. It doesn't help when a mainstay system like Mythic Plus was all about beating a dungeon as quickly as possible. It sets the tone for a lot of players that this is how you should play the game. I feel the majority of the community and Blizzard are now looking through the same lens, and that's all about incentives, and primarily gear. Everything is about the rewards now, rather than the gameplay. And this just isn't how everybody's going to get their fix. To expand on this a little, I'm talking about the way Blizzard implement content. For example, the potential with Torghast was incredible, but Blizzard were likely concerned that engagement wouldn't be up to their standards, so it essentially became the gatekeeper for the Shadowlands legendaries, which forced players to engage with it. And this was a method they also used during BFA, with the likes of Island Expeditions, Warfronts and Horrific Visions. It stopped being about things you might be excited for or interested in, and you were forced to engage with it. Otherwise you'd be missing features of that expansion. And when something like this is so forced, it doesn't matter how good or bad the gameplay is, because you're going to do it anyway. The gameplay comes second at this point, and this allows Blizzard to be complacent and provide a disappointing or unfinished product, because they have your attention either way with this philosophy. I would say the original reward was simply playing the game. Again, I must stress, how you choose to play World of Warcraft is entirely up to you, and fun is subjective. We all get our kicks in different ways, and that's great. This video is designed to be thought-provoking and make you think about reasons you may have stopped enjoying World of Warcraft. I'm not telling you this as a matter of fact. Sometimes you have to stop and just appreciate the game for what it is. On the face of it, the game is a process and a time sink. There is no end, and whilst there is pressure of looming patches and expansions around the corner, sometimes you have to just stop and smell the flowers, because before you know it, they'll be gone. The prevalence with optimization could also be applied to the recent season of Discovery that Blizzard have introduced. After cries for no changes in Classic and then eventual wishes for a Classic Plus, Blizzard pulled the trigger on what that could potentially look like so far, offering a bridge of nostalgia and modernity. Season of Discovery is fun. It ticks all the boxes of nostalgia with the old classes, the old zones, and everything you remember about Classic, but also provides new experiences, with raids and fights never seen before, along with new quests and rewards. Players yearn for adventure and discovery again in World of Warcraft, and this is the Season of Discovery. But it's not much of a discovery when everybody just goes to Wowhead to find out where the runes are so they can get what they need as fast as possible and be done with it. Season of Discovery was also about making classes and specializations feel like they have a place in the game too this time, as well as some new interesting combinations. Ret Paladin can finally get in on the action, as well as tanking shamans and healing mages. However, I feel a lot of these specializations or builds won't really get an opportunity, unless they're performing really well, or you're playing with like-minded individuals who just want to enjoy the game casually, because the goals now are about having the right buffs and what will get you the quickest kill times. And of course, not everybody plays this way, but it is the most common approach. The elitism that spawned from retail which has infected Classic is such a shame in my opinion, because Classic was never supposed to be like this. Classic was supposed to be a time portal, a gateway to the past, a way for you to go back and recapture your memories and remember the way things used to be. And whilst that is possible, and you may still get those warm feelings of getting drive-by buffed while you're questing in the open world, it's not the game that has changed, but the community and the mindset. Of course we had add-ons in the past such as Gear Score, but we're now at a stage where you're able to pay for an add-on to view character passes, all-star points, and world ranks in-game. I feel the barrier to entry for World of Warcraft is crazy as it is, from understanding the narrative to your passes. It's harmful for casual and inexperienced players. Not being invited to public raids because your passes aren't good enough is the equivalent of not being able to get an entry-level job because you don't have enough work experience. It's a vicious circle. A lot of players are campaigning for 10-man Mythic to be introduced, or a return to the style of Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria, purely because they aren't interested in optimization and just want to play in a tight-knit group with their friends. But these players are currently in limbo. They feel that Heroic is too easy and Mythic is far too difficult for reasons I mentioned earlier. Think about the time requirements, the admin, the raid compositions, the add-ons, the tuning. The barrier to entry for Mythic is high, and to raid Mythic requires huge sacrifice. There's nothing worse than progressing a boss just for it to inevitably get nerfed too after the race to World First is over. I'm very much in the camp that Mythic is too hard, to the point where it receives substantial nerfs. There are currently 4 raiding difficulties in World of Warcraft, looking for Raid, Normal, Heroic, and Mythic. It just seems a bit ridiculous at this point. It's excessive and should have been addressed a long time ago. I don't want to get into this too much though, as I plan to release a video talking about this in more detail. I just think it's important to mention that some players really loved the older raid style when Heroic was considered the hardest content, and Mythic is only catering to a small portion of the player base. As far as the modern game goes, you might still be thinking, no, Ed, you are wrong. I dislike World of Warcraft now because of the exhausting systems like borrowed power and the excessive grinding. And that is a valid criticism of the game, and absolutely a reason why some players have left it behind. And whilst that is Blizzard's fault for implementing those systems, I believe it is the change in our lifestyle, a lack of free time, and maybe a desire to be the best and complete every tick box possible that's contributed to this, which in turn has breeded resentment, burned players out, and left players jaded. WoW could be the sweetest chocolate ever, but have too much of anything, and it's going to make you sick. Like anything in life, you need moderation. Just to be clear, this isn't me saying that nobody enjoys WoW anymore, because of course they do. But it's important to question why that is, and why you might not feel the same way as those players anymore. Some players love WoW more than ever right now, and that will be because of the way they choose to play the game, their friends, their goals, or their lifestyle. But not everybody does enjoy it anymore, and I think it's important to ponder why that is, and to look at aspects of the game certainly, but also other important aspects as to why the game was so good for you at a certain point in time. The elements of WoW people speak so fondly of still exist, but it's easy to be blinded by this because the game is now seasonal, formulaic, and you have fallen into the rat race instead of being that explorer you once were. When Ian described the War Within, you know what you're getting with it. 5 to 6 zones, a new level cap, a new raid, etc. People will say that there's no mystique like there used to be, and that is simply down to both the game and our evolution with it. Some players are still exploring WoW and reveling in its glory. The fantasy does still exist. However, imagination and world building all dies or becomes irrelevant once you optimize it to death. When the goal is no longer having fun, exploring, engaging with the story, it then becomes, what is the fastest and most efficient way to finish this for the biggest yield of rewards? It stops being a game and starts becoming a job. You will define the game by how you choose to play it. It's important to take a deep breath sometimes and calm down. It's a video game, and it should never be made to feel like a second job. World of Warcraft can be whatever you want it to be. You are in control of how you perceive the game to be and how you want to play it. You can do anything you want. You can roleplay, you can do dungeons, you can farm achievements, you can participate in community events with your guild, and if you want to go as hard at it as possible, you have every right to do so. The modern game has absolutely had a treadmill design in recent years, and if your goals are aligned with that style of playing, then that's just how the cookie crumbles. But don't be too disheartened by this. The game is so much bigger than endgame, but it relies on communities and players to open their eyes and see that for themselves. It's still an immersive, beautiful world, but endgame will always be endgame. No doubt about it, World of Warcraft has changed, but it's important to recognise that we have changed too. As mentioned, these videos are made with discussion, entertainment and opinion in mind, so whether you agree or disagree with this video, I'm very interested in your thoughts and feelings and would love to get a discussion going about this, so do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.